Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Navs Effect podcast. I am your host, Naveen Ganglani. Thank you for joining me. If you're watching this podcast recording live on a Friday, we are at 5:01 p.m., just about ready to get the weekend started. But before we do so, I want to preview the upcoming second round of the UAAP men's basketball tournament because the games start about 24 hours or so from now. And who better to have come on the show than one of the members of the Boleros podcast? Gab Lim will be joining us. I cannot wait to go into some of the storylines we have still to answer for the remainder of the UAP season and to chat with him to get his perspective on how things will play out. But first, before all of that happens, I want to share a message from one of the friends podcast, Finn Cotton. Yes, Finn Cotton has partnered with the Navs Effect podcast to provide all of you shoe loving folks with another great option to utilize. So, before we get this show started, before we have Gab come on the stage, let's first hear from our friends over at, like I said, Finn Cotton.
I want to say congratulations on all your success.
Congrats to Finn Cotton Sneakers.
Para sa lahat ng mga kababayan natin dyan, Disenyong Pinoy.
Disenyo ng Pinoy para sa Pinoy.
Dinisenyo ng Pinoy para sa Pinoy.
Dinisenyo ng Pinoy para sa Pinoy.
Disenyong Pinoy para sa mga Pinoy.
One of the best seller nila sa Fin Cotton, napaka-quality.
Napakasarap po sa paa. Halos parang natutulog lang yung mga hinlalaki ko sa paa. The best. Fin Cotton is the best policy. Nobody's perfect.
Thank you to our friends from Finn Cotton. Here's a sample of the kind of items they come out with. Good style, simple, make the step, make it Finn Cotton. Gab Lim joining us, everybody, on this Friday. Gab,
Hello.
thanks for
Good
being here, man.
afternoon.
You know,
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
happy to be here. I love that there's a Floyd Mayweather shout out for Finn Cotton.
and
Wow.
actually, everybody's like, oh, it's Floyd Mayweather. I'm like, oh, they got LeVar Ball, right? No, I'm just joking. Gab, earlier while I was driving, I was like, oh, we're so lucky we get to be at the time of the calendar year where the UAAP is so hot right now. I mean, you got controversies, you got good games. Then I opened my Instagram and I was like, oh yeah, Maui's in Switzerland. And then now he's at Italy eating pizza and gelato. I'm like, you know what? I think I'd rather be there. I think Maui would be the right
Yeah,
choice.
me too. Maui, next time, bring us with you, please. I-fund mo
I
naman yung trip
know.
namin.
Ay. Maybe you guys need to contact your friends at Gatorade to do a Boleros podcast in Europe. No,
Maybe.
congratulations on that, by the way. Congratulations on the success of the podcast so far.
Thank you. We're just having fun, and that's the most important part. We're just very happy with what we're doing, and we just love talking about the UAAP and basketball.
Absolutely. And the people love it too because they can see the authentic and genuine love you guys have for UAP basketball. So I think that's also why they enjoy it so much. And that's one of the reasons why I enjoy listening to the podcast episodes you all come out with, which I think is
Thank you.
good quality. I like that episode recently where you guys wore varsity lifestyle merchandise. Came in uniform, no?
Thank you to you for allowing us to partner with Varsity Lifestyle. Love the shirts. My wife loved the shirts. Love the shirt pala.
Fantastic. Well, I'm very thankful you guys got the opportunity to partner with them as well. And I'm sure it won't be the last time. So let's get started, Gab. We're entering the second round of UAAP men's basketball now. And it's been an eventful season, very fast as well. I was surprised really that the first round ended just like that. I feel like the second round will probably be a little longer in part because there's going to be a break towards the end of October. So technically we're kind of getting like a near 1 week break again. Not before the Final Four, but at least before the second round ends. So the second round should be longer, allow us to kind of decompress a little more, understand what's going on. But the first round, it felt like it went by so quickly. I'm gonna start with Ateneo. They're 1-6. They're at the bottom of the league standings. It's
Why do
so
you have to
crazy
start
to
with
think.
Ateneo?
I'm so sorry, bro.
It's
But
okay, it's okay, it's okay.
they're right there in the bottom of the league standings. First time ever in the Tab Baldwin era, obviously. First time in a long time in the Ateneo basketball history. I can't remember the last time they ended the first round with just one win. So my first question to you is, what is a positive result but also a realistic expectation for the rest of the Ateneo season? So sabihin natin parang Venn diagram, right? For all my math nerds from back in the day in grade school. So if one circle is realistic expectation and one circle is optimism, what's meeting there in the middle for you when it comes to Ateneo?
I would say 4 wins to end the season. That would be the meeting point between optimism and realism. Because realistically, who can they beat? Probably FEU, probably an Adamson which they beat in the first round, and let's just say either one of
NU?
FEU or NU. So that's probably it, no? So one of those, two or three of those teams, they can probably beat, but the rest, I find it hard that they could beat the likes of UST, UE, the way they're playing now. La Salle UP, ain't no way. They have a chance. So that's it to me. But a real optimistic thing for me in the second round is going to be if they actually start playing their young guys. I think we mentioned this in our last episode that I really want to see the younger guys more. I think Sean Cutevis and Chris Kuhn have already. We already know who they are. It's now 1-6. I think it's time to look forward to the next season rather than try to win every game. Sort of like tank the season, if that makes sense. Although we're not playing for any draft pick, but I do want to see that part. I mean, Chris Kuhn and Sean are not going to play next season. I do want to see more development from the younger guys. That's just me.
Which rookie has been more impressive to you so far, Bahay or Porter?
Wow, that's tough. Has to be Porter for me. Despite the hype around Jared Bahay, I feel like he still has a lot more to give. Well, you can just look at the field goal percentage and you can see that he has a ton more to give. I mean, he's one of the worst shooters in the league right now. Although he is one of the top assist guys, so at least he's playmaking. But yes, Chris Porter, the fact that I think he's only 6'3", and he's the only playable center for Ateneo. That's most impressive. And he's going up against guys who are a foot or more taller than him, or 5 inches or 6 inches taller than him in every single game. That's impressive. I think he expected to become a wing when he entered the seniors division, but just because Ateneo lost Mason Amos, Balogun has been unplayable, Kyle Ong has been unplayable, so now it's up to him to guard guys who typically you wouldn't trust him to guard, but he's been doing it. He's been matching up with those FSAs, so I say Chris Porter has been more impressive.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. You know, I mentioned in one podcast episode a few weeks ago, I kind of see Jason Perkins to some degree in Porter. Like, I think maybe towards the end of Porter's collegiate career, maybe a bit of a Jason Perkins style of play there. I think Porter can be a pro one day. I know it's early. I know he's only a rookie, but I like that he's not scared to shoot from outside. I like that he's not scared to bang bodies inside. And he's one of those guys who plays bigger than his size. Like, you don't think he's 6'3" when he's on the court because he's always underneath, fighting for rebounds, pushing people out. He knows how to be physical. He has a college-ready body that I feel once Ateneo's strength and conditioning team works with him maybe 1 or 2 more years, turn some of that baby fat into muscle, you can have a player that one day could be a mythical five kind of standout in the UAP. I think that's how high the ceiling is for Christian Porter. True or false? Ateneo is better off just not playing Balogun anymore.
Oh my. I would say false. I actually think he's been mildly decent the past two games. I mean, against Momo Way, he was kind of decent. No, he grabbed a couple of rebounds, had a good couple of defensive stops on Precious. Against NU, there were some flashes. I mean, I have not heard if there is gonna be a replacement FSA yet for next season. So for right now, it's gonna be Balogun.
Oh
So-
Lord, oh Lord.
I mean, there has been no word yet of any confirmed FSA for next season. There have been some rumors of Ateneo trying to recruit some FSAs, but there has been no confirmed one. So for right now, for this time, it's Balogun. So we can't just not play Balogun. We have to let him get his bumps. We have to let him get his experience. So as much as it pains me to say, and I just hate watching him play because he's just not playable at times, we have to let him play.
Let me ask you something. How much does it hurt that you had Precious Momoe in Ateneo, that you also had Peter Osang, the backup FSA of UST, who's literally not playing right now and is better than Balogun? And the most painful part probably from all of it is you had God's Love, who was next in line to be a great Ateneo FSA, and of course his talents get recognized, and he's now gonna play D1 NCAA basketball.
I heard
in the
that.
USA. I mean, just such a tough turn of events for Ateneo, especially with the FSA side of things, because if there's anything the off-season tournaments have proven to us lately, it's that you need an FSA to compete against the best of the best. If you don't, you're just handicapped.
Yeah, that's pretty painful. Now that you list all the names, I'm kind of having some FOMO here for all those FSAs. Why don't they just come play for Ateneo? But this is the team that Ateneans have now. This is the team that Coach Tab has now. We just have to live with it. I mean, the first year of Ike was just as bad. Maybe not this was bad, but he was also pretty bad when he sort of started for Ateneo. So just have to watch through it, experience it, be angry if we have to be, but this is the team we have, and we have to back them up.
But isn't there a chance that maybe Balogun could have a similar, and I'm thinking optimistic here, similar trajectory as Chibueze Ike, who we know didn't start so great that first year in Ateneo, and then his second season, there he is trying to go mano a mano against Ben Mbala. And even last season, and this is why I still have some hope for Ateneo this season, not to make the Final Four. I think that's out of the picture because if you look at the standings, they're just too far away. But in terms of maybe being one of those teams that at the end of the season, they're like, hey, the team would have made the Final Four, pero tinalo sila ng Ateneo, like the spoiler kind of role, And, if you look at last season, Obasa got better with each passing week in the UAAP. In fact, in that game against LaSalle in the second round, he was going at it against Mike Phillips. He had that big poster dunk against Mike. He was blocking as many shots as he could. So could that development from the Ateneo coaching staff actually make us expect that Balogun could have a better second round in the first round?
I think there's some optimism, Navs, with Balogun. You see the tools. I mean, he does have a good shooting form. He's pretty athletic. He just has to control his energy and his athleticism. There are times
so you don't want him to be Giannis and go full court 1-on-1.
Oh, no. I don't think you even want Henry to do that, right? Is Henry Aguilar?
Not at all.
So I don't think you want one of your FSAs to be doing those kind of things. But as a guy that grabs rebounds, protects the rim, I do see him developing into someone like that. Much like Ike. Ike during the start of his career, butterfingers, couldn't catch a ball to save his life, couldn't shoot to save his life, couldn't shoot free throws. I see the same thing with Balogun now. He's pretty raw, but he does have flashes of talent. It's painful to watch now, but you can see something there. Now, whether Ateneo is patient enough to wait for him to be that guy, that remains to be seen.
Gab, it's interesting. You're starting to see a shift in terms of roster dynamics in the UAP again. Just an observation I had, no? Because in the early 2000s, and I'm sure you'll remember this, having top-notch guards was key to UAAP success. You think Retualo, Cortez Lasal, Tenorio at Ateneo, Avenido at FEU, James Hiap at UE, Artadi at UE. And then, Arwin comes along, changes things a little bit. Diba? Now, you start wanting to have those tall wing players to help you win championships. Arwin Santos, Mac Cardona was kind of a forward for LaSalle. Joseph Yo was a guard, but he always would slash to the rim. He played bigger than his size. Meyer Hoffer eventually. Then for Ateneo, Nico Salva, that big wing forward. Raba Al Hussein, who was very versatile. Jeron Teng, big wing also for LaSalle when he entered. And then towards the middle of the 2010s, you started to see the shift in terms of how you needed to have top-notch FSAs to be the best teams in the UAAP. That's why UP went and got Bright Akueti, then they made the finals, diba? That's why LaSalle had Ben Embala, and we know what he did in his 2 seasons there. And that's why you saw Ateneo, they developed Ange Kwame, and then they became the dynasty that they turned out to be. But last season, we kind of started to see it shift back more to having dominant local players. Part of that is because LaSalle recruited a Phil Foreign big man in Mike Phillips, who was basically your FSA. They had Bright Nuanco last season, but they won the championship with Nuanco not playing big minutes. Then you look at the UAAP now. Yes, there are still some good FSAs. I think of Motong Kara. I think of Precious Momowe. But I don't think that, okay, maybe Precious, yes. I don't think Mo is the best player of UST. I think the best player of UST is Fortsky. And sa UE, I think, yes, Momowe is the best player of UE. But towards the end of the games, one of the reasons UE has been winning lately is because they've been going with their different guards to contribute, right? So that's Abate or Abate, depending on how sexy you want to call his name. That's Welo Lingo, even Ethan Galang stepping up, right? Do you feel we're starting to see the shift in the UAAP where instead of relying on FSAs, by the way, I should mention Malik Diouf of UP as well, right? The last few seasons.
Of course.
Are you starting to see the shift in the UAAP where instead of relying so much on the FSAs to be your MVP, to be your defensive anchor, teams are starting to rely more on their local guys now? Because think about it, LaSalle, they play Henry. Henry's part of the rotation, but if you told me Henry's not playing this weekend, I'm like, oh, they'll be fine. They have Raven Gonzalez. They have Mike Phillips, right? You look at the team like even UP, their best big man is QMB. It's not Ododo. It's not their FSA, right? Ateneo, we know the case with Balogun. NU doesn't have an FSA. FEU Konate is really good, but late in the game, it's January Pasaol, it's VJ Perez. So again, back to my question. Are we seeing a new shift in UAP dynamic where teams are prioritizing versatile big wingmen or players more than they are FSAs already? Or is that because there's just not a lot of FSA superstar talent right now?
So 2 things. I do agree with you that we're shifting away from just having one dominant FSA. Just because the league is essentially more talented and a lot more programs are getting players from other countries, Phil Foreigns, diba? So the talent pool is now bigger. It's not just players from Filipino high schools from all over the country that we get talent from. It's now players from other leagues and in other countries. So the talent pool is definitely bigger. And yes, I do agree, Navs. It's just rare to find FSAs with the quality of a Ben Embala, an Ange Kwame, a Malik Diouf. It's great if you can find someone that generational, but most of these guys are pretty raw when they come in to the UAAP. So I think a lot of programs now are realizing that to win a championship and to be successful in the UAP doesn't depend on having a good FSA. It depends on having a good team. So build your team with talent, with young talent that complement each other. And essentially, every team now has an FSA. Every team now has, well, not all, but they have FSAs who are mildly decent and can compete with each other. Now it's time to develop the locals. So that's now how they're competing. And again, the talent pool is just bigger, and a lot of schools now have a lot of more choice as to who to recruit into their programs.
Honest question here. Are there just not many great FSAs anymore, or are the locals getting better? Right? Because when FSAs started playing in the UAAP, we're like, okay, one of the perks of having FSAs, letting them have one of the roster spots, is it's going to improve the overall play of the local players, right? Now, when Kevin Kembao goes to Korea after the season, when he goes up against those pro KBL teams, I think he's gonna be fine. He got used to playing against FSAs here, taking jump shots over them, trying to score over them, taking the ball out of the perimeter, and waiting for them to come out and guard him so that he can blow past them. Even guys in UP, Alarcon, Kagulangan, they're not scared to attack FSAs and pick and roll. They will attack them, especially if the FSAs are playing drop coverage. So, is that one of the things that have changed lately? Locals are just better now, and because of that, you're not seeing FSAs dominate anymore. And to add to that, Gab, I must ask, if Mbala and Kwame and someone like Kareem Abdul played in today's UAAP, would they still be as dominant, knowing that they're going up against the likes of Mike Phillips, QMB, and all these other local big men or foreign big men who are starting to improve also?
That's a great point, Navs. And I think the answer is yes to your first question. The locals are getting better and they're getting bigger. In the past few seasons, we've seen wings such as Save Lucero, KQ. Carl Tamayo was playing power forward, but he had wing skills already. So we're seeing players who are being brought up not as big men, but to play the perimeter. And that's good for the UAAP. Guys like Francis Lopez, who's not... If Francis Lopez was born in the 2000s or in the late 2000s, he would have been playing center. Just because Filipinos were smaller, there were no FSAs. So if you were 6'4", 6'5", you're a big man. You're playing center. But now...
Well, his jump shot is so bad right now, maybe he should play center. I mean... Why does he take jump shots? Anyway, we'll get to that later. Go on, Gab. So sorry.
If kung yung mga UP na nanonood dito, baka mag-aalit sila.
Anyway, just for the record, Francis is good, but the jump shots are just... We'll talk about it. Anyway, go on.
Anyway, yeah. So as you said, the locals are getting much more talented and they're getting taller. And that's good because now they're more suited for the international game. They're not anymore 6'4", 6'5" centers who have to play against 7-foot big men in the international stage. They're now wing players, guards. So that's better for us. And your second question, if Ben Mbala or Ange were to play in today's UAAP, I would say it would be harder for Ben, although I still think he would be pretty dominant. It would be harder because he's a bit shorter. Ben was not really the tall
like
FSA.
6'8", 6'7", yeah, like Mike's height, essentially, yeah.
Yeah,
he
6'8",
just looks like
6'7".
an Olympian. That's why he looks so big, diba? Yeah.
And exactly. And I think why he would still be successful in today's game because he knew how to use his strength. Even against taller guys like si Ike or si Prince Orizo from FEU, he was still pretty successful because one, he could jump right out of the building, and second, he was pretty darn strong. Ben was built like a tank. So I still think na if you put him in today's UAAP, Ben Mbala would dominate. I mean, his athleticism and strength would give him that advantage. Ange, we saw him as early as late as season 85 that he could still dominate despite being on an injured knee.
That's true.
So I still think if you put Ange Kwame in today's UAAP, he would still be the same defensive beast. I mean, he's still 6 foot. What are you? 6'10", 6'11".
What if you put Ange on this Ateneo team right now? What would the record be?
I would say he's good for at least 2 to 3 more wins.
I think they're 5-2. I think they're 5-2.
Really.
Yep, 1,000%. I think he was that impactful on both sides of the floor.
Well, you're more optimistic than I am, Navs. But yeah, I mean, Ange was a difference maker. He, as you said, grabe yung impact niya on defense. Just the way he can move. Also, I do remember one play from season 84. Jan Felicilda wanted to isolate Ange Kwame on the perimeter, and Ange Kwame stayed with him the whole way and blocked his shot at the rim. That's how crazy his foot speed was.
Ange and Ben were the only FSAs that when I saw them switch out in the guard in the perimeter, I'm like, the guard thinks this is an advantage, but it is not. One time I saw Ben literally block a 3-point shot, get the ball, turn around, bring it down the other side of the court, and dunk it over the poor little guard.
Coach Ateneo was using Ben Mbala as the point of attack defender on a press.
Yep.
He was using him to guard 30 Ravenna. That's how crazy Ben Mbala was.
Crazy. I wish we got another season of. I wish we got one season of Ben versus Ange. I really, really do imagine. Jeez.
If they faced each other, that's must watch TV. If they faced each other,
that's like if Thor faced if like Odin faced Zeus, right?
Oh, that's a good comparison. The battle of the gods, the big time gods.
For my mythology nerds out there. Okay, let's get to UP LaSalle. I think I have to put LaSalle as number 1 in my power rankings now out of respect for the way they performed against UP in that game. Now, yes, I know UP did not have JD Kagulangan, but last season when LaSalle did not have Evan Nelly in their first round matchup, we gave UP credit for winning that game anyway. So I think it's only fair that we do the same for LaSalle this season too. I'm not going to get into the dramatics, the theatrics. There are reports now saying that there's not going to be a suspension. It's a stern warning. So whether or not you're okay with that stern warning, well, that's subjective. That's up to you now. I do think that some of the theatrics, though, kind of covered the important long-term implication of that game, which is that LaSalle seems to like this matchup against UP. LaSalle seems to enjoy this matchup. Maybe not enjoy, like, they're not going to blow UP out. They don't know that. But at the least, UP has made every other UAAP team uncomfortable the last few years, right? Goldwyn system, the players, the aggressiveness in the ball, the physicality, they have made other teams uncomfortable. Coach Tab said it. He has never seen guards like the UP guards, Abadiano, Fortea, Kagulangan, Felicila, go over screens and fight through the screens like in the UAP ever. He called the UP guards the best defensive guards he's ever seen before, in large part because of their physicality. But against LaSalle seems to be able to match that physicality. And I thought, without Nelly this season, LaSalle might struggle a little bit with that because KQ has way too many responsibilities on his plate. Against UP the other day, Josh Davids stepped up. JC Makalala was humongous in the second half. EJ Guliena was getting offensive boards over guys taller than him. Mike Phillips didn't even have a great game. QMB did a superb job guarding Mike Phillips in that second half. But the other guys of LaSalle, Marasigan coming off the bench, it's like, okay, Abadam, you go in. Oh, he'll hit 2 3-pointers. Josh David, you go in. He hit 2 3-pointers. Makalalag, you go in. Give us 5 points in the fourth period. And then throughout the game, they have that steady presence. KQ, right? To set the tone. As we say hello to Gab's dog, I think he agrees with our conversation right now.
Sorry about that.
So, no, it's fine. So I was wondering, because it seems that LaSalle likes this matchup against UP, because even in the Phil Oil finals, LaSalle was up 20 until UP made that rally. Do you think that it's just a matchup factor here that Because sometimes basketball comes down to who you're facing against, who are their people, how they counter what you try to do, and how you counter what they try to do. That's why sometimes LaSalle has a hard time against UE because UE has so many shooters, and LaSalle likes sending help defenders. They like trapping, they like forcing turnovers. And when a team like UE, who knows how to rotate the ball and have shooters counter that, that's why UE can stay in games against LaSalle. So from a matchup perspective, who do you think has the upper hand right now between the Fighting Maroons and the Green Archers? And again, to our spectators, we're not talking about the spit accident. We're talking about just straight up basketball right now.
I do think the upper hand has to go to LaSalle because I think they found the formula on how to beat UP. In Phil Oil Finals in the second half, they were essentially trying just to give it to KQ and let KQ just solve the problem. That was it. Now I think if KQ does what he did last Sunday and let the game come to him rather than try to force everything, let his other guys drive to the basket, let his teammates shoot threes, let his other teammates make plays. I think that's the formula for success for LaSalle. I've said this since the preseason. If they just go with KQ ISO, they're not gonna beat UP. But if they go with kick out to Boris and then Boris drives, or kick out to JC or kick out to VJ David for a corner three, if they play that way the entire game, they're gonna be successful against this UP team because they have a ton of weapons. They have a ton of talented role players, if I may say so. They have 2 stars in Mike Phillips and KQ, and they have a bunch of great role players who know how to play their role. And I do like your point, Nabs, about the physicality because I think UP has found their match in terms of physicality. Essentially, sasagot ang LaSalle. I mean, if you be physical with them, LaSalle will be physical with you. If you trash talk them, they will trash talk you. If you do any if you do any sort of antics towards LaSalle will fight back and answer back. I mean, they're not like the Tab Baldwin Ateneo of the past couple of seasons wherein if you trash talk them, they will essentially just stay silent, for the most part, diba? I don't think sina BJ Andrade sila on Squame will generally trash talk you back. But ang LaSalle, papalag.
Yep.
Diba?
Sure.
So, I think nahanap ng UP ang katapat nila. I mean, they do like to play physical, maangas na basketball. And I think LaSalle will play that with them. So, I think medyo na-shock ang UP na gumanon ng LaSalle sa kanila that they actually answered the call of the physicality and of the mind games along with them. It will be interesting just to see how the second round matchup unfolds. Because there's obviously some bad blood now. I mean, sabi nga, Francis Lopez said, it's personal. So, let's see. I do hope there's nothing violent. But I do like the physicality and the rivalry between these two schools.
It's so funny because so often, once the UP guys start getting physical with opponents or they start trying to get in your heads, you can see the other team get away from their system and nadidistract sila and they start getting a little too over-aggressive. And that's the number one mistake you can make against UP. Get over-aggressive against them because they will force you into turnovers. And once you let UP get out in the break, get 6 or 8 quick points like that, build the rhythm, you're screwed. They're going to run away with the score. They're going to run away with the win. But LaSalle seems to be able to do it to UP as well. Some of the decision-making of UP when they face LaSalle, like the end of the finals last season, Gab, I still can't believe it. The decision-making at the end of Game 3, the rushed jump shots, forcing the issue, the turnovers. I was like, this isn't the UP team that went all the way to the top of the elimination round. And again, towards the second half, you saw it against DLSU in the fourth quarter. UP came all the way back. They tied the game in the third quarter. The whole kerfuffle, I guess, happened between the benches in the third period. LaSalle kind of took the lead back there. And then once the lead went to like 8-9, yung UP parang the execution they were playing with that got them back in the game or the execution that you saw them have while they went undefeated, nawawala eh. And that brings me to my point to some degree of Francis Lopez earlier where at his best, you want Francis attacking the rim, getting to the free throw line. We saw that at the end of the second quarter, diba? That's what allowed UP to build off that momentum in the third. Towards the end of the second, Francis kept attacking the paint, kept getting fouled, going to the free throw line, and then kind of slowed the game down, let UP get back in it. And then you saw them settling for jump shots more in the third period, the fourth period. One more thing as well, they were 2 of 20 from downtown. They came into this game leading the UAAP in 3-point shooting percentage. They were 2 out of 20. So I wonder, again, this is why I'm so interested to see their second round matchup, UP and LaSalle, because this shooting from UP, the outside shooting, is it just a weird coincidence that for 3 straight games now, they can't happen to make outside shots? Or is there something about that long LaSalle defense that's bothering the UP shooters and less, even just by a fraction, decreasing their percentages, not actually by a little bit, quite a huge fraction, decreasing their percentages compared to when they face the other teams. So I'm very curious to see how that plays out. I want to get to the next topic. Who do you think is the third best team right now in the UAP? Is it UE or is it UST? Go for it.
Woo! That would be great disrespect for me for the UE Red Warriors if I wouldn't say UE, because they do have a 5-2 record and they did deal LaSalle a loss. So I'm gonna say UE for now. What I like about UE is they're not solely depending on Precious Mamuway. Diba? A bunch of their wins came when Precious scored in single digits. It was mostly the other guys and their defense that pulled through and got them the win. So that's what I would say. I really have confidence in this UE team. I like that Coach Jack is willing to mix it up on defense. I like that different guys are just stepping up. I do like Rainier Maga. I do like Siwelo Lingo. My goodness, one of the best shooters I've ever seen in the UAAP. So yeah, put me down for UE. I know UST has the better top end talent, if I may say so. Diba? Nick Cabanero, Motong Cara, Fortsky. They do have the better top end talent, but I have not seen them put a 40-minute game where they have won all throughout or all 4 quarters. It's always been they've won one quarter, they struggle the next, then and then they win the next quarter. It's mostly when Fortsky's in the game that they continue playing well. Si Paranada has been a disappointment, if I may say so myself. So they still have that to answer in the second round. For UE, I think they know their rotation already. They're playing the exact same guys each and every game. They play the exact same way each and every game. So I do like their identity.
Is it fair to say I think UE is the better team right now, but UST has the higher ceiling?
I do agree, because I do think if UST gets it together and uh, finally unleash Zayn Mahmoud, because I do think they need to play Zayn Mahmoud more just to give more rest to Motong Cara, because in their 2 losses to UP and LaSalle, they were in this game until Motong Cara either fouled out or got injured, and then they lost the game. So if they can eventually develop Zayn into be a decent center, because he's the only other guy who's as tall as Motong Cara. So if they can at least survive the minutes without a Motong Cara in the game, then yes, their ceiling is definitely higher.
You know which team Zayn really wanted to go to at first?
Is it Ateneo? Don't tell me it's Ateneo.
It is Ateneo. It was. In fact, I had him on a podcast 2 years ago, 2 years before his senior season, and he's like, I really want to go to Ateneo. And he thought it was going to happen. And Ateneo, imagine the minutes he would have at Ateneo right now because of their lack of depth in the front court. But anyway, we digress. With UST, parang wala pa yung 2-man game of Nick and Fortsky for me. I feel like it's is it your turn, is it my turn kind of dynamic with them still. But the last few games, you're starting to see it be more like maybe 70% Fortsky, 30% Nick. And Nick is more like a secondary playmaker and first option scorer. But Fortsky is the decision maker, deciding where the ball goes to. And I'll tell you something. The more the ball goes to Motong Kara, the more I like it better for UST. And one more thing. You know who I think right now is the best pro caliber player from the locals of UST?
Who?
Christian Manaytay. I
Oh,
really, really like
I
Christian
love this
Manaytay's
guy.
game.
I love
Grabe,
him.
simple, no BS. He can score in the post, he can drive in from outside. Not a great 3-point shooter, but he'll knock it down every so often. Just mark that down for the future. If Christian Manaytay becomes a star in the PBA,
I will not be
just remember
surprised.
this conversation.
I
Yeah,
will
I
not be
wouldn't be
surprised.
surprised too. But yeah, Fort's key is the key that ignites that engine. And I still think there's a lot of room for UST to grow. That's why I think their ceiling is high. I think they'll end up being the third team in the league standings too, which will be very, very interesting if it's a matchup against
Whoa.
UST in the first round. I mean, sorry,
Wow.
a matchup against UP in the first round. I think that would be quite something. Next question for you, Gab. Adamson. Legit Final Four contender or got fortunate with some early wins and they belong more towards the lower part of the standings? What do you think?
I think they're a legit Final Four contender. In our Boleros episode yesterday, I did tell Sammy picked UST as the number 4 team. I picked Adamson. I just love that they bank on their defense. I mean, their offense is still gonna be a question. We saw that with UP, they couldn't generate enough offense in the second half to get them the win. But their defense is always gonna be solid. And I love defense. I do think Coach Nash is eventually gonna unlock Matt Erolon. If for some godforsaken reason that Matt Erolon is not taking more shots in the second round, I don't know what's it gonna be for Adamson. I do think si Matt Erolon and si Matt Montebon should take a majority of the shots because I do think they're both really that talented of playmakers. But I do like Adamson again, much like UE, they rely a lot on the 3-point shot, and if they
They
can
do.
make enough threes, they're gonna win. So if and they play solid defense, so that combination I like it better than UST because UST nga
Wow.
very
To
inconsistent.
be fair,
For me,
Adamson did beat UST in the first round. Yeah, Adamson took care of that matchup rather easily in the second half. I have them as a legit Final Four contender, but I think their ceiling right now is a playoff for the fourth seed, which they could win. I think they could be a fourth seed again. Maybe
I
just a
agree,
hair
Navs.
below the
No,
top three. Yeah, yeah. Go for it.
I agree. No, I think for the past 3 seasons, I would say that's been the ceiling for Adamson, or the past 2 seasons since Jerome Lemo, Jerome Lastimosa was there. Their ceiling has always been Final Four, and I think you'd expect them to be a title contender. That's it.
Got
They're gonna battle for the Final Four, but I don't think any higher than that. Not really.
I think we can all agree though. Coach Nash Rosella as a head coach, just still so superb, so superb, so
Gets the
good.
most out of his players. Amazing.
College players for sure, especially in college basketball. Okay, we're gonna continue with our UAAP questions in a bit, but first, again, remember, guys, Finn Cotton, one of the best local brands out there right now. You guys should check it out. Great quality, great prices. So, Gab, we have a segment now on the show called the Finn Cotton Standout Player of the Week. This doesn't have to be limited to the UAAP. It could be any basketball league in the world. So NBA, MPBL, PBA, EuroLeague when it starts, NCAA, Youth Philippines, and United States. So, Gab, who is your Finn Cotton Stupendous Player of the Week?
Oh, I'm gonna have to go with UAAP Navs because that's the only basketball I've been watching
Fair, fair.
recently. Although I have been watching some NBA preseason, but it's preseason. I mean, come on. There's nothing really much to take from there. But I am gonna go with VJ David or Josh David. Because in the UP game, he essentially said, "What point guard problem does LaSalle have? I am the point guard of this LaSalle team. I am their best answer at point guard." And he definitely showed it. Uh, Not only was the 3-point shooting there, He was pulling up from mid range. He was not, as you said, Navs. He wasn't being flustered by the UP pressure. He didn't turn it over 7 times like he did in his first matchup with UP in Phil Oil. He's turned. I think Lasalas found their problem. Lasalas found their solution to their point guard problem. Uh, Josh David is proving that he's pretty capable. I think this is his last season. If am I right, Nabs? Yeah, it is. So what a way to go out, no? As the number one point guard option for LaSalle. So put me down for him as the stupendous player of the week for Finn Cotton.
Fantastic, fantastic. Love how you did that too, getting that sponsor name in there. My stupendous player of the week is Rondé Hollis Jefferson, or shall I call him PBA Kobe Bryant. Look at the stat line: 26 points, 13 rebounds, 9 assists, and I think he had nearly 5 steals and 5 blocks as well in TNT's Game 1 victory over Rain or Shine in the
What
PBA
a fantasy gold
semifinals.
mine.
Oh my god, what a fantasy gold mine in the honorary mention that Justin Brownlee, who hit I think 5 4-point shots. That's still crazy, but he hit 5 4-point shots, guys. So honorary mention them. But yes, RHJ is my stupendous player of the week, and of course, thank you to our friends over at Finn Cotton. Okay, so I think you and I both agree that Final Four mix right now, LaSalle UP 1-2 to some degree, they're a level above, and then UST Adamson UE kind of maybe determining the remaining Final Four seeds. So remaining teams, NU, FEU, Ateneo. Which team from those three would you say, at least for the remainder of the UAP season, has the most exciting potential to watch as a fan, as a casual observer? If you're a fan of the team from NU, FEU, Ateneo, which team would you be most excited for the remainder of season 87? And by the way, this doesn't necessarily mean wins, better standing. It could mean like which one are you most excited to watch develop as the rest of the season goes on? Who's your pick?
Well, I am gonna go with FEU because I do think, because I love VJ Pre. Let's just put it that way. I do love his potential, and I do want to see some more development from VJ. 6'4" guy with guard skills. That's Gilas right there. That's shouting Gilas right there. If he can get a quicker release on his shot, if he can lessen the turnovers, add some more playmaking to his game, I'm excited to watch FEU because I do think Coach Sean Chambers is willing to make adjustments. Unlike Coach Jeff Napa and Coach Tab Baldwin, which I do think they're less susceptible to making adjustments. They do like to play their cards the way they're dealt already. Coach Sean Chambers has shown that he's willing to make adjustments. I mean, he's largely benched Bagunu already, and Bagunu and Ona, and played Montemayor and Craig and Adam Nakay more. So I think he's gonna continue the experimentation for the second round and put me down for at least 2 or 3 more wins for FEU, or at least 2. Maybe they can beat an Ateneo. Maybe they can upset one of Adamson or UST. I do think they have good top-end talent. The bench is really the problem. I mean, Joric, Janray, and VJ, and Konate. So, put me down for FEU.
Can I bring up a topic I'm very curious about and kind of flies under the radar? What's going on with Cholo Anonuevo? Every season, he seems to get hurt. He'll miss a chunk of time. Then either he returns like late and then he gets injured again, or he doesn't return, or he returns and he just doesn't play the same way. He seems to be always injured. And look, I don't want to make something out of nothing potentially, but when I was talking to some FEU people, the way they were saying it was parang, we're ready to have Cholo come back whenever he wants to come back. So does that mean that they're letting Cholo decide when he's not feeling pain anymore? I mean, FEU people are... Did he return for that game against UST? I didn't get to see. Did he play against UST?
I don't think he did.
Parang no, right? Let me just double check that real quick. Far East, yeah, wala. No Anonuevo in the game against UST. And I remember when he missed that game against UE, middle of the first round, the expectation was he was going to miss one game and come back. Then again, the same thing the next game. And here we are entering the second round. Who knows if he's going to come back? But anyway, this team seems to be better without him too, right?
I do think so because I do think si Montemayor and Nakai are better fits beside Pre and Pasaol and Konate just because they add more shooting. Cholo is not a shooter. I said this before the season. I don't think the VJ Pre and Cholo Ano Nuevo pairing is gonna work, especially if you put them beside Konate. There's no shooting there. I think you saw that in the first game of the season when Cholo played. They struggled to score because they lacked the spacing to do so. So I don't know, man. Usually an IT band injury just takes a couple of weeks and then it's mostly therapy unless it's really a high grade IT band injury. Hopefully it's not. No, I do want to see Cholo. I mean, at some point you gotta feel sorry for the guy. Because every year, I think the only season 85 was his largely healthy season. Diba? Where he played, I think, the whole season or at least majority of it. 86, he was injured. 84, he was injured. I don't know, man. I just really feel sorry for him.
Well, hopefully he gets healthy because I think there's still a lot of potential there worth exploring. And I agree with you though. The fit of Cholo and VJ, especially because VJ seems to be improving with each passing game. We'll see. We'll see how Coach Sean navigates that situation when Cholo comes back. Okay. We're towards the end of the podcast now. So, of course, let's get to your predictions for the rest of the season. Who is going to be your MVP, Rookie of the Year, Final Four teams, Final Teams, Champion, and Finals MVP? Right now, as we enter the second round, who are the following that I mentioned?
Navs with the tough questions.
Of course.
MVP, definitely KQ. I mean, barring any injury, I think it's KQ's. I mean, just look at the statistical points. He's way above JD Kagulangan for number 2. He's just the best player right now in the UAAP, and he's definitely gonna run away with MVP. For Rookie of the Year, I'm still sticking with Jared Bahay just because of the inflated assist numbers. I think you're definitely gonna see Jared Bahay continue to lead that. I mean, he's not gonna lack for minutes. He's not gonna lack for opportunity. The percentages are gonna be rough, but I've said this before. We don't count efficiency in the MVP or Rookie of the Year race. So Jared Bahay is, I think, gonna be the winner for Rookie of the Year. Final Four teams, I'm gonna say, well, definitely it's Salle, UP, and definitely UE, and then Adamson. I'm still gonna stick with Adamson. I do think they have enough. Finals, who else but UP and LaSalle? I mean, Navs, come on. I think this has been the most obvious thing since the end of last season.
The end of last season, yeah.
Like, LaSalle and UP are going to be in the finals again for this season. Finals MVP. I think when we had our podcast with Nico and my 2 other Boleros, I did say that LaSalle was going to be a champion, so I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to put LaSalle as my champion, and who else but Kevin Kiambao as the MVP. Best player in the UAAP.
Daddy's going to take it home, right? Daddy's going to take it home.
Take it home.
Daddy's going to bring home the bacon.
And I'm sure you're pretty happy with my choices that I picked KQ and LaSalle.
Well, I wouldn't complain. I mean, if that happens, right? But I do agree with you. I think it's UP versus LaSalle. I think it's still a toss-up between both teams. But that's why the second round matchup is going to be so interesting for me, Maui. This thing now where LaSalle has won 4 out of the last 5 matchups against UP, is it, just a result of close games going down the wire and DLSU having the better performing players when things get tough in the clutch? Or does LaSalle have an advantage now against the Fighting Maroons? And like I said, we don't want to talk about theatrics so much, but will that play a factor in how both teams go at each other in the second round? Right now, I have to say that I think the answer is yes. Fantastic episode with you, Maui. Thanks so much for joining me here.
Gab,
Thanks.
Gab.
Sorry, Gab. Oh my God. So bad, so bad. Sorry about that, Gab.
It's
See, I was
fine,
thinking
it's
about
fine.
Switzerland and Italy again, and thinking of pizza for dinner. Gab, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. Why don't you tell the listeners and the members of the community what episodes and what projects you, Sam, and Maui have coming up soon?
All right, so for this weekend, we're definitely gonna react to the games, if especially the LaSalle versus UE game. I'm sure Navs, you're gonna be paying close attention to that game. Let's see if LaSalle gets revenge or if UE just has LaSalle's number. No, that's definitely the big game for this weekend, and the Sunday games, we're definitely gonna watch that. Let's see if Ateneo can eventually pull out win number 2. I'm praying as an Atenean, please. For future projects, check out our videos and buy our shirts. That's it.
Nice.
Thanks, Nat.
Where can people buy your shirts?
We do have links in the description of our video, so just go there and click on the order link and wear your school colors. That's it.
I need to get a Bolero shirt, man. I need one of those.
Oh, we'll probably
Yeah.
I'll talk to Sam and Maui. We'll give you one.
My guy. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. So you guys are gonna do an episode right after tomorrow night's games and Sunday night's games too.
We'll see. I mean, if it's a blowout.
Hey,
We
when are
don't
you guys
wanna-
going to watch the games live again? When are you guys gonna go to
We're
the
watching
arena?
tomorrow. Me and Sam are
Nice.
watching that LaSalle UE game because I think that's gonna be
Wow.
lit.
And then blow out then, like you said.
I hope not. I hope not. I mean,
like the
I don't
Saudi
want
UP game. I think people expected the close game, maybe overtime, diba? Then biglang, shit, what's happening here? I think UE will put up a great fight for sure. But yes, thank you so much, Gab, for joining. Appreciate it. Regards to Maui and Sam and the rest of your team, and more power to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nams. Bye-bye.
Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Much appreciated. Thank you, of course, to Finn Cotton, our partner on this podcast. Thanks to the community. Great stuff. Watch out for our episodes this weekend reacting to the UAP games. Take care, everybody.